back, Wargamers. Today I'm going to show you the method I use to make tile roofs for my Roman and Greek buildings. Now, this method can be used for really almost any era since tile buildings are still in use today. But I'm going to use it specifically to make this late Roman church. The new Saga expansion is coming out next month, focusing on the late Roman era. So I needed to make some tiles for that. So what I'm going to use is, as you can see in the background there, so I'm going to just use corrugated cardboard to act as my tile roofs. If you look in between those two strips of cardboard there, you see, well, that kind of looks like those cylindrical tile roofs you see on buildings in antiquity. So all that I am going to do is I'm going to separate the cardboard, as you see here, from those kind of cylindrical tubes there of paper, and I'm going to use that to craft the different layers of tile. So I am just now going to take out my hobby knife, and I'm going to just cut along the seam here. Once you've separated a significant portion of that top layer of cardboard, cut out the remaining cardboard beneath it into thin strips, which you will then use to craft your tile. So here we got a section of tile roof that I've completed. If you notice, it has that effect we're looking for as each layer of the cardboard overlaps, creating what looks like the Mediterranean method of tile roofing. So now let's show you the method I used to make that section of roof. So I'm going to take one section of the tile with the cardboard backing still attached. All right, that's important. That's going to be the foundation of your tile roof, and I'm going to put this at the bottom of my roof section to anchor it. So I'm just going to take some PVA and I'm going to glue it to the bottom right there. Now, it would probably be a good idea to let that dry, that anchor section to dry, because as you'll see, I don't, and I'm going to be pushing it all over the place. So I would let that dry. But afterwards, I'm just going to now take the cardboard from both sides of kind of that ribbon paper in between the corrugated cardboard, and I'm going to stick it on top of my anchor layer there and use a pen to push it into place. So only one part of your roof should have any cardboard backing on it. And once I have that in place, I will then put on my final third layer for this roof section. And again, just going to take a long section, and I have it hang over my MDF base here, and I will trim it later, just so I don't make a mistake while it is drying. And as you can see, it's pretty easy. I do have to reposition that initial anchor piece of tile quite a bit, so again, I would let it dry before messing with it. So here's just the final layer using the same technique. Put some PVA down, and I will use my pen to kind of put some pressure in between the rounded sections of the corrugated paper there, and just push it into place, and that is it. That's as simple as it gets for making some pretty decent looking tile. All right, and all you will have to do now is let the PVA dry for quite a while, and you'll actually find that the paper hardens quite a bit with the PVA. But just to make sure that your roof tiles are about indestructible, I would suggest that you cover it completely with PVA. So here you see I have two dried sections at the top of my church here, and I have covered them after they dried. I covered them again with a layer of PVA to make them solid. You could drop these things on the floor and they wouldn't break, they wouldn't bend. They are rock hard. So I'll show you just what I do, and all I am going to do is take my PVA and I am going to brush it on and let it dry, and it will create a nice durable surface. Because again, the worst thing you can do is to make some flimsy terrain that you spend all this time building, and then it falls off your work table and it gets broken and all that time is gone. So just to make sure, go ahead and cover up those tiles, and it will dry clear, and it won't really obscure any of the texture or anything. So PVA is a great choice for this anytime you're working with paper I always suggest put a layer of PVA on top of it as well as matte varnish to just give it that extra amount of protection, because you will be playing many games, and we all know it happens over the course of a game and how mishaps can happen to your terrain. There we go, very simple, using an old brush. Don't use a brush that you like for this. Again, never brush with PVA. With a good brush, it will destroy it. So here we are. All the different roofing sections have dried, and they are incredibly hard. All right, they are not going to break very easily. And at the very top, you'll notice I put a piece of paper that I curled at the top to hide where the two pieces of MDF meet. And you often see this on Mediterranean buildings, this long piece of tile at the very top of a roof. So that's all I did to mask the MDF terrain. Now the next step is to base coat your tile with a dark red color. I'm using here burnt sienna, which is kind of a nice dark red brown. It will give a nice shadow layer to our roofing section, and I'm just going to make sure I cover up all the cardboard with this layer. It might take a few layers. You'll notice that the cardboard, even when covered with PVA, really likes to soak up the paint, and sometimes, especially with the overlapping tiles, there might be some pesky little areas that don't want to take paint very easily. So just cover the entire sections with this, and after we have this section finished and dried, we are going to just do a triad of colors to highlight this thing. I'm not going to use any washes or do any blending or anything crazy like that. If you want to, you can really go all out on your paint job with this terrain. But for me, I'm going to highlight first with some red ochre, which is kind of almost like a burnt orange color. If you look at the color of ceramics, they're kind of that red orange color. So I think that will look nice. I'm just going to place that red ochre at this kind of cylindrical tops of the tile. All right, and I'm going to avoid those divots in between the tiles so that we get that nice contrast of the really dark burnt sienna and the lighter red ochre. So you don't have to be very careful with this. You just really want to run it over the tops of your tile, and already you'll start seeing how it's all starting to come together right about now. You'll notice it's starting to actually really look like real tile. So I'll speed this up as I quickly run over this, and I'm only going to do one layer of this. And if there's a little bit of the burnt sienna kind of showing through parts of the tile, that is fine. A little variation is okay as far as that goes. And looking around, other than buying like molds for tiles, I think this is probably the easiest way you can make these tile roofs. If you do want to go one step easier, actually, you could just cut out the corrugated cardboard into strips and not have them overlap. Just keep that cardboard backing and just kind of place the strips next to each other so there is a little divide. Kind of might look like a little bit of overlapping, give the illusion to it, but you wouldn't have to go through all the different steps that I did. So anyways, here is I'm going to show you the last step on the top of the roof here. So all I did was take some buff titanium and mix it in with the burnt sienna to give kind of a lighter burnt orange color, and I'm just going to hit the places where I know light's going to be hitting. At the top layer of the tile will be the very top near the roof, and then for the lower sections I'll hit kind of where they're jutting out there at the bottom. So just going over each part and highlighting those key areas just to give that extra contrast, extra pop when you look at the roof. And so now we are done painting. So here is the finished product after the paint job on my roof has dried, and I've also based my church and flocked it and all that. So I think the finished product looks pretty good. It looks like your typical Mediterranean tile roof that you've seen since antiquity. So if you're looking to make a house for the Roman era, for ancient Greeks, even all the way up to the Napoleonic era, or fantasy even, this would look pretty good instead of having to use the common tile molds that you buy from manufacturers, which are pretty expensive from what I've seen. This is a nice alternative, and it just takes a little bit of time to cut out the corrugated cardboard and glue it all together, but in the end I think it's worth it for the final product that you get. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you can use this technique on your own terrain. And if you liked this video, please do like and subscribe, and I'll be back with a bunch more terrain videos soon, and I will see you then.